Alright, in part two, we're going to try to go through quite a few of the tools in your toolbox. Okay, this is your toolbox over here, this little ribbon strip. And at the top, you'll notice there's this little set of arrows, and you can push the toolbox together like that. Let's look at this first tool. The first tool, if you hover over it, you'll see that it's the Move tool. Okay, the Move tool is exactly what it says it does. I can click on this circle level and I can move things around with it. Okay, I'm going to switch to my other picture of the bridge, and let's talk about the Marquee tool. The Marquee tool is a multi-tool, and all of the tools with the little arrow, this little tiny arrow in the corner, the bottom right hand corner, and if I hold my mouse down, I can change to other tools. But right now I just want to talk about the rectangular marquee tool. So with the rectangular marquee tool, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate my background. So the way I'm going to do that is simply grab the background layer and drag it on top of the new layer icon. And then I'm going to turn off my original background layer by turning off the eye next to it. Okay. So my background layer, I'm going to use my marquee tool and I'm going to draw an area around it. Now you notice now it has these little selection box, and around the edge of the box these things are called marching ants. Okay, the marching ants show you where the edge of the box is. Okay, so what I can do with that is I could now hit my delete key on my keyboard, and you'll see that I have knocked out that part of the picture. I can undo that, and now that part of the picture is back. I can click anywhere on the picture and make that selection go away. Alright, the next tool is the lasso tool, and it's a multi-tool. I can use the lasso to draw an area in a more irregular area, and then I can delete that area or copy it or cut it or whatever. So it is another kind of marquee tool. So I'm just going to click with the marquee tool and make it go away. The next tool is the magic wand tool. It's a really cool tool, and we'll be using it a bit to do things like select an area. Notice it's trying to select all the colors that are the same. So it's trying to find all the colors in a certain area that are the same. That's one of the things that the magic wand tool does. I can also use the quick selection tool. Let me deselect. You can also go to select, the select menu, deselect. So now I'm going to go to the quick selection tool, and I can select that area and select this. I can copy it, and then I can deselect and then use my move tool, and I can paste that sailboat somewhere else like that. Now notice it's really, there we go. Since I found a similar part of the water, I can make it look like now there's two sailboats. Notice it made a brand new layer right there. So I'm going to delete that layer by throwing it in the trash. I'm just going to throw it away. Okay, the next tool that we're going to use is the crop tool. And if I click again with the crop tool, you'll see that we get these rule of thirds grid lines on here. And I can use that to decide which part of the picture I want to keep and which part of the picture I want to throw away. So everything inside here I would keep. And so if I just hit enter right now, I got rid of all of that outside part of the picture. So I can get rid of the boring parts of a picture and keep just the most important part of it. There's also the perspective, crop, slice, and slice select tool underneath this tool. So the next tool that we're going to talk about is the eyedropper tool. This is a super useful tool for picking a specific color. Like if I wanted to match to this color right here, by just clicking on it, it now selects that color in my color chip right here. So if I wanted to pick this gray, off of the sail. There we go. Now I have that gray. If I want to pick the blue out of the water, now I have that blue out of the water. Right? I can pick any color, green from the grass, whatever it is. Okay. There are other tools under here: the color sample, ruler, note, and count tool. Mostly we're going to be using the eyedropper. The spot healing brush is a really useful tool, as is the healing and patch tool and the red eye tool. These are tools that we will use when we start talking about fixing a picture. Like you can see here, you see what it does. It makes that spot go away. So I could use the spot healing brush to make this cloud go away, right, like that. And now the cloud is gone. So that's kind of what you use it for. Alright, the next tool is the brush tool. There's also the pencil tool, the color replacement tool, and the mixer brush tool. We will not be using these tools very often, but we might use them some. Okay. The clone stamping tool we will be using when we repair pictures. We'll be talking about how to use the clone stamping or pattern stamping tool. I'm not gonna, well, okay, I can show you really quick. Clone stamping. So I'm going to hold down my Alt key and select that area, and now I can copy the sailboat right there. So that's kind of how it's used. I'm not going to do that. Okay, so the history brush we're not going to use very much, hence I don't really want to talk about it. The eraser tool is pretty obvious. It erases things. Okay. Let's start with the magic erase. Right, the magic erase tool. So you notice I just erased all that water right there. So undo. Okay, the gradient, the paint bucket tool. The paint bucket tool is a very useful tool. So let's say I want that green color. Let me go back over here to my new document, and I'm going to go to my background. Let's say I want my background to be green. Let me pick a nicer shade of green. And boom, I can just use the paint bucket tool to paint the entire area green. So it's a very useful tool for that. The gradient tool lets you see up here in the top left hand corner, you see how I have a gradient running from green to white, right? So if I drag across my picture, it will make that gradient across that background right there. So, okay. The next tool is the blur tool. Let's go back to the bridge, and we'll use the blur tool. I'm going to make the tool bigger. So all these tools have some things up here in the top that you can do with them, like make them larger. See how much bigger my brush is now? So you see how blurry the boat gets by just holding down on the blur tool. That's pretty much what it's good for. You can blur out people's faces and things like that in a photograph. I'm going to undo the blur tool. Let's go over here. I'm going to go to the history panel so I can undo all the blurring I did. So I did several blurrings. Okay, now it's nice and not blurry anymore. There's also a sharpen and a smudge tool. Dodge, burn, and sponge. We might use these later, but right now I don't really want to cover them. Just need to know that they're there. The pen tool is not something we're going to use probably in Photoshop, but later on when we get to other programs like Illustrator, we will be using the pen tool. The type tool, we will be using the type tool. So this is the horizontal type tool, which means it goes side to side and not up and down. So let me choose the white text. This is the text color, and these are the text options. I'm going to make the text really big. And I'm going to call it nice bridge. Right, so it lets you write on the text. You can do all kinds of things with the text, and we'll talk about that later. But now you can see there's a text layer over here in the layers panel, right? And I can turn it off by clicking the eye and go back to my background copy. But I can turn it back on whenever I might want it back on. Okay. We're not going to use the path selection tool because we're not going to really be making things with paths in Photoshop. That's something we're going to save for Illustrator. The different shapes, right? You can make rectangles, polygons, ellipses, and circles. An ellipse is like an egg-shaped circle, okay? And then the custom shape tool. And so this custom shape tool will allow you, if you go up here to the top, right, to do all these crazy custom shapes. So later on when I say I need you to make a diamond or a star or something like that, we'll be using the custom shape tool. But right now, I'm going to turn this back to the rectangle tool. The hand tool allows you to move the picture around on the canvas, but right now our canvas is the size of our screen. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zoom in like, I don't know, 500%. There we go. So now I can use the hand tool. See how blurry the picture is when you zoom in that much? Right, it's very blurry. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go back to 100%. And then the last thing I'm going to show you is the magnifying tool. Okay. And the magnifying tool lets me zoom in, or I can hit the Alt key and zoom out. Okay. That is the toolbox. If your toolbox is missing for some reason, like I'm going to X out of my toolbox, just go up here to Windows and go to Tools, and boom, there it is. All right. And that's all there is.